Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio everybody. What is going on? It is Gale here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi video. And today we are back with an Aurario Stories story. I know that sounds a bit weird and the way I said it is a bit weird, but basically part of the compilation of short stories and side stories, we got this special side story from Omori Sensei that does take place around the time of volume 19 of the main series, that is to say, of course, right? And so remember, first and foremost, that this video will contain spoilers for things that happen after the anime is done, basically, right? So this is post season 5 content, so once again there will be spoilers for things that haven't happened in the anime. And second of all, this is a story that's actually not yet been translated actually in English fully. Of course, we're yet to get the Aurario stories in English. Yen Press have been pretty slow on that front, and I think they've delayed it again. So it was supposed to originally release next month in February, but it's now releasing in March, and then the other one is releasing sometime in like June or July, basically. So we're ways away from the actual translations of these stories, but I want to talk about the story that we're going to be discussing in this video, because it obviously, as the title suggests, links to a old villain in the main series. Now, obviously, you know, you guys are already seeing the screen right now and wondering, is it actually Dix? Is it Valletta? Is it somebody else? Is it like potentially the likes of, you know, Hyacinthos, Fryn? Who is it? Who are we going to be talking about today, Gale? This one is a bit of an interesting one. I think a lot of people have theorized it for quite some time now, and a lot of people have been asking the question of if it was even possible for this to happen, and turns out it was possible for this to happen. Let's check out the side story, of course. Now, first and foremost, if you guys go on to enjoy this video, remember to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel for more content, and let me know your thoughts on this short story, because of course, as you can already tell by the first word, the Xenos word, you already know who we're going to be talking about when it comes to a villain. So like I said, this does take place after the events of season 5 and volume 18. So once again, make sure you guys are up to date, or you know, you guys are okay with spoilers, and let's get into it, shall we? So first and foremost, this short story was written for the compilation Aurario Stories, and it is set after volume 5 or season 5 volume 18, and so it contains major spoilers for those who haven't read, which are of course Bell and Ryu's updated status, Ryu as a member of the Hestia Familia, and of course Freya Familia's, I wouldn't say friendly, but more like subservient relationship with the Hestia Familia. Alright, let's talk about the details. Now, we've known about the story since pretty much the volume dropped. This is like a year and a half ago, basically. And obviously at the time, I think I was still working on, you know, just trying to figure out where I wanted to be in terms of Danmachi content, working on Danmimo content, Dankro content, and so on and so forth, right? So of course, I wasn't really going to be making a video talking about this, but back then, even when I read that this was a thing, I wanted to actually, you know, talk about it. But of course, you know, live streams, we don't really do spoiler live streams, right? Because of course, there are so many people out there who haven't watched, you know, or haven't read, I should say, the light novel, and don't even go out of their way to read the Japanese version of the light novels, or the translated Japanese versions, of course, by fans, right? Everybody's trying to obviously see and look forward to, of course, the anime instead, and so it is always a little bit tricky in that sense to obviously get you know, talk about spoilers on live streams, because obviously people aren't going to really want to hear those spoilers, right? And I want to be kind of courteous in that sense, and you know, give them a little bit of a safe space basically in the live streams. But I've been wanting to talk about this for quite some time now, of course, right? So Bell, Ryu, and Hedin are on the 37th floor. Hedin is obviously clearing the way of the monsters, and of course Bell and Ryu are super impressed with how good he is in terms of efficiency and precise. Hedin is like downplaying it as well, you know, that a first year adventurer can do this as well. And you know, Bell expresses that he doesn't think that this seems to be the case, and that this is something unique to Hedin, and then receives a kick, or maybe kicks from Hedin, who tells him not to talk back. Bell gives a yes master, thank you, while Ryu exclaims that Hedin is going too far. Man, bro, Bell has absolutely been tortured by Hedin. This is a crazy relationship that he's got going on with Hedin, man. It's so funny. It's funny, but also like kind of worrying at the same time, you know. As Ryu and Hedin are arguing and you know, talking, Bell is of course thinking about how things have changed, of course, right? Since of course the events of the deep floors, of course, right? Back then you had both Ryu and Bell at level 4. you know, not to mention Bell was around low to mid level 4 at that time. I remember, of course, right? His stats were on the lower side. But then, since the events of the Colosseum, Bell's basically a low level 5, mid level 5 adventure, and then Ryu's, of course, a newly branded level 6 character as well. So it obviously helps them out a lot in that sense of that big boost in power. And not to mention, like he also says right after that as well, is that they know the floors way better because they've actually gone through it. They know what to expect and what they're dealing with on that floor. Hogni comes and he's very comfortable in the atmosphere of the 37th floor, and he's talking as if he's cast his magic. He knows that Bell must have been just mistreated by Hedin right now, and then proclaims that the monsters in the area have been cleared. Bell thanks him, and Hogni says it's not necessary as they're on the same team. They, Hedin, Hogni, and the Gulliver brothers are also getting paid to do it as well. Bell thinks how amazing it is that he's being escorted by both Hedin and Hogni to the 37th floor, and then it goes to a separate scene where a message was also sent to Hestia to get Bell to go down to the 37th floor for a meeting. And then soon after, Seer also came and said that she wanted to help, and then this arrangement was set up. It was decided only Bell and Ryu would go as far as the 37th floor, as Hedin was adamant that Lily and the others would slow them down, so they are waiting on the middle floors for Bell and Ryu to return. So they're probably setting up a safety, I mean, I guess a safe spot. They can just stay in Rivera, basically, while they're going down, of course, to the 37th floor. They could probably wait at a little bit of another safer spot around the mid-20s floor, right? So yeah, that's pretty much fair enough. I think that's fair enough. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything regarding Volume 15 and Volume 16 and stuff like that upcoming ahead, but a lot of people are questioning, like, you know, if Bell were to go down to the 60th floor, 70th floor, whatever it is, right? If you were to go dungeon diving with, let's say, the Loki familia or even the Freya familia themselves, right? How will the others kind of keep up? And it's a good question, because I do think it'll be rough for them to try and, keep everybody protected, especially the low level 2s and, you know, the mid level 2s, of course, right, in Guelph and Mekoro and so on and so forth. It is going to be tricky. I think in that sort of situation, you would need a full expedition squad to be able to do that, because you need to have all avenues protected, right? At the end of the day, every single individual that is low level and cannot protect themselves need to be also protected, while the others are also on the offense. So that's why you have to have the vanguard, rear guard, and everything going on, so that, you know, basically it's not affecting the it's not negatively impacting the squad, first and foremost, but also secondly, it's also protecting those that are weaker, that are still supporting the squad. Remember, they're still supporting at the end of the day, you know, the likes of Ahmed, Haruhime, and so on and so forth. They're talented enough, or their skills are strong enough to be a part of the squad, but unfortunately their stats don't match that skill, unfortunately, the level of the power of their skill. So it unfortunately ends up becoming a case of where they need to be protected, but what they do for the squad is immense, right? So yeah, that's something I do think that is quite interesting, and I think this is what's going to end up happening, is like, unfortunately, you're going to see like maybe Haruhime will join them in going forward, but unfortunately, you know, the likes of Lily and Welf and stuff may have to be held behind to set up basically like a safety spot or a safety point, so that, you know, people can come down and go up and down quite easily, right? So yeah, the payment is for Hogni to be able to play with Bell's board games, and for Hedin to read a book from Ryu's hometown. On the first, Bell wonders if such a thing is really a payment for a first year adventurer, and on the second, Ryu was very crestfallen to hear the terms. And I think, and I emphasize I think, but it definitely seems this way, that her expression took Bell so much by surprise that he laughed, leading to Ryu with a red face, pinching his cheek and reprimanding him. There's a comment that it's not just Hedin, Bell doesn't have luck with elves. The Gulliver brothers are also about deterring adventurers from the area. Bell thinks that as difficult as the 37th floor is, this is likely excess reinforcements. There's a mention about the level requirements of this floor, and Bell says that even at his new level, although I guess it could be Ryu saying this, it feels more like Bell to me. He really doesn't want to experience what he went through again last time, and Otaro is mentioned as being able to come down here at level 4. They arrive at the hidden entrance to the stream from Volume 14, where Bell and Ryu exited from the area back then. Ryu and Bell go forward, while Hedin and Hogni remain behind, telling them to take their time. As they travel along the passage with Bell leading the way, Bell is aware that Ryu is red, thinking about what happened when they were here last. He himself is red, and he also pretends to not notice any of this, not sure what expression he should have. I think that's the detail that stood out, that it's not that Bell is oblivious or that's seen by the stream in volume 14 as being misinterpreted at this point. They arrive at the stream, and this part is very nice. Even in translated form, Bell and Ryu feel the warmth from what happened back then, and they make sure not to look at each other. It feels like they don't say anything either, but just experience the feelings and memories and then keep going. Now, this will probably annoy a couple of fans, I feel like. Not just Ice fans. Well, obviously I think you guys could infer that I was gonna say Ice fans primarily, but I think this will annoy a lot of people in itself, like, you know, this whole continuation of where it's like, you know, is he actually gonna get with others or no? Is it just really Ice at the end of the day if he's feeling this way? The thing is, at the end of the day, you're going to be embarrassed about what happened, of course. In a survival moment, of course, anything goes, right? But when you're looking back at it with how intimate the moment was, you're gonna be embarrassed. So that's what I feel Bell is here. It's more so the case he's just embarrassed, and of course, you know, there's that whole situation of the memories and emotions coming to you know, coming to the surface, of course, right? And it's in the case of Ryu, of course, she has affection for Bell. She loves Bell, and so in that situation as well, it's understandable that it's coming to the surface as well. Her emotions, her memories, her feelings, and a lot of people will say like, oh, but why does Ryu have to like Bell, and can't she just like anybody else or whatever it is? And it's like, yeah, but Bell is the MC. At the end of the day, he's gonna have multiple females behind him. Like, you can't not have that. At the end of the day, there is going to be there. That is going to be there. And the thing is, I feel like at this moment in time, right now, if we're really talking about women after Bell, of course, we have, you know, Seer slash Freya doing her own thing, saying like, oh, you know, next life, I've got you, buddy. And Hestia's also kind of given up, but also, you know, not really fully given up at the same time. Lily, I feel like, obviously still loves Bell in that sense, but she's also kind of mellowed down quite a bit if you think about it, right? Especially in recent chapters, or just at least the scenes with her, you know, going after Bell has mellowed down quite a bit, and so on and so forth. I feel like the real only like people that are quite sort of like after Bell's heart in any way, shape, or form is Ryu. That's it in my opinion. And that's gonna be fine, because it's basically setting up to be a love triangle, and at the end of the day, we know that Bell anyways is also still in love with Ice. There's no chance for Ryu, at least not in the canon timeline. We know the what if timeline and everything, we've seen what happens there, right? But in the canon timeline, we know it's Ice and Bell. It's the end game. It doesn't matter. It don't matter, okay? It don't matter. They then meet Weene, who rushes to Bell. Bell asks if Weene has gotten taller, and there's an inside joke where Weene says with her new height, she can now pat Lily's head, which is something she wanted to do as Haruhime taught her. That's funny as shit. That is actually funny. I didn't even know that was the thing. Bell tells her not to do this as Lily would be sad, with Bell smiling wryly. I enjoy when Bell smiles wryly. He does have a sense of humor. Bell then politely introduces Weene to Ryu as Weene hides behind him. The others then, Xenos then come as well. Too many names to keep track of, I know. I mean, there's I mean, if I can think of the ones off the top of my head, Lid, Weene, Ray, Fear, Gross, Arles, I think is one of them. Carl, something like that. And that's about it. Even I don't remember anymore. Of course, Astraeus is there and all that sort of stuff. Marie as well. But in terms of the main group from like Lid's group and stuff, I can't remember the rest, to be honest. Ryu earns their trust with a speech of, I think, gratitude for the Xenos saving them. She receives a nickname from their leader. The author makes sure to point out that this is all happening as well promised at the end of volume 15. So you can check that out, of course, right? You go back to volume 14, basically. I said volume 15? Volume 14. There's a part where a Xenos-like fairy that Ryu rescued in an earlier short story comes to her and tries to lick her in thanks, which Ryu doesn't really allow. There's an illustration of the Xenos. The compilation Orario stories is mainly based on the already released short stories involving the Xenoses, with the story being the only new one in the compilation. So this scene, Xenos, gives some continuity to all of it. I'm definitely going to be reviewing the book when it comes to Yen Press, and, you know, we have the English version. 100% that's something I want to do, but it's something I'm very much looking forward to. Fels is here. There's some questioning from Bell and Ryu about why the meeting place is so far down, even with wanting to avoid adventures. Fels says he has figured out the reason of the Colosseum: to make Xenoses. Okay. In all of the cycles of monsters being born and defeated, that's how the rare exception to the Xenoses came to be. Ryu asks how can he be so sure, and Fels says he figured this out in reverse from seeing an example. No, there's some mention here about the first Xenos, who, given the time frame of a long ago, that is sure to have passed away by this point. I'm not sure if the info is to lead anywhere, but it definitely had a vibe of pay attention to this. This will pop up again. Yeah, I think there's got to be some more stuff with the Xenos is coming up. I know we're in the final saga, but like I said, the final saga can be 8-10 books long, you know, and so there's so many plot points that still need to be kind of cleared up and talked about, answers that need to be given. So yeah, Fels leads them to set example. A Xenos he had to freeze. He tells him it was an aggressive Xenos, and in combat it claimed the wing of one of the Xenoses, Ray, which of course Fels healed afterwards. Fels are sure that this monster is a Xenos because they talked, though it was just one word repeatedly. It was destroyed. Fels then leads them to that frozen Xenos, which is a lizard-like with a tail and claws. It's like a Peluda, or basically a subspecies of Peluda. Even Ryu didn't know what it was. As Bell and Ryu approach it, and Bell mutters Juggernaut, it wakes up and tries to break free. So Fels reinforces the ice and until the Xenos falls asleep again. Fels gives an explanation of how the Xenos fell down from the Colosseum into this area. He then asks Bell what they should do with it. Fels' personal evaluation is that there's potential for this Xenos to turn into something like the calamity the Juggernaut was. So yes, this Xenos is a reincarnation of the Juggernaut. This is the villain that's come back, and it's come back as a Xenos. Now, of course, it's come back as much more of a dangerous Xenos than Astreus was, of course, right? Because this is the second time we've seen a monster that Bell has effectively killed end up as a Xenos, which says a lot about Bell's luck. At least this one isn't as apparently, from what we've been told as well, and I don't think it's mentioned here necessarily, but it seems like the Peluda Juggernaut is about level 5, level 6 in strength, which is actually weaker than Astreus, funnily enough. But again, I do think that it is quite interesting that we are going to see the Juggernaut be a Xenos effectively. I'm quite curious to see how it's going to develop from here, because like it shows that it doesn't have the same level of sentient or sentiency. I don't know how to say it, but it doesn't have the same faculties like Astreus has or everybody else has in the Xenos clan, right? Maybe it's also something that you know, will develop over time, especially considering it's so new potentially, right? So we're gonna have to wait and see, of course. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very interesting. Bell asks what will happen if they leave the Xenos be. Fels says at some point the third Xenos, the one that tried to lick Ryu, will be the caretaker here, like Marie is for the water capital floors above, and use its barrier-like ability to keep this Juggernaut Xenos in check. Then they can talk to the Xenos and obviously maybe develop a relationship. Bell is thinking about what to do, and Ryu gives some advice. She says that obviously the Xenos can't be held for what happened in the past life, and she says that it's Bell's decision at the end of the day, and she thinks his own form of justice is being tested right now. Wayne is of course hugging Bell's leg at the same time, and this is when Bell gives the answer. He says they will leave the Xenos be, otherwise all the time he spent with Wine will be meaningless. Wine in her past life also fought adventures, and Bell feels like the Juggernaut deserves the same consideration from him that Wine got. If it doesn't work out, Bell will take responsibility. Everyone is happy with Bell's decision, Xenos, Fels, and Ryu. Fels comments that he isn't surprised about Bell's answer, and honestly that's probably why he asked in the first place and didn't take action without asking Bell anything. Wine obviously thanks Bell, and they all leave, and then Bell obviously takes a look at the Juggernaut and wonders what exactly is the dungeon. Wine is then brought to a hidden village on the 20th floor to meet, of course, Haruhime and the others. Lily greets Bell, and there's an inside joke as she curtly asks Bell how long he took if he did anything with Ryu. It's denied with you can't do anything, so they can't do that sort of thing in the deep. Yeah, you can't. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. The Xenos want to hold a banquet, and of course Lily and Welf are still exasperated at that. But yeah, man, it's quite interesting to see the Juggernaut be a Xenos. I mean, this is something I've been wanting to talk about in a video, or just generally with you guys, in all honesty, to see what you guys think as well. And I'm quite curious to see if you guys think if it's going to play some sort of role in maybe the end game or something, right? We know Astreus is gonna definitely play in the end game, a big role in the end game. Of course, we know that they're gonna probably fight each other one more time at the very least, right? Bell and Astreus. I also do believe, and this is my personal opinion, that Astreus is going to be part of that final fight against the OEBD, and is probably going to sacrifice himself for Bell as well, kind of make it a whole circle of life thing, you know, that whole sort of ironic kind of thing, situation of like, you know, Bell almost lost his life to the Minotaur at the very beginning of his career as an adventurer, right? To being saved and, you know, being allowed the final opportunity, the opportunity to deal the final blow on what is effectively the strongest monster in in the world, right? It will be very interesting to see how it goes, right, in that sense. But I'm also quite curious to see how the Juggernaut Xenos will come into play. Will he or will it, I should say, because we don't know if it's a he or she right now, that we'll have to wait and see. But we don't know if it is going to do anything, if it's going to be helpful, not helpful, if it's going to have to be just protected for the time being until they can actually build a relationship, as Fels said, right? But yeah, I'm quite curious to see what you guys have to say down below in the comment section below regarding this short story. Do you guys think, you know, the Xenos will come into play? Do you guys think it'll actually be a helpful Xenos? Or do you think this is something that, you know, Omori is going to keep in the side and not bring back? And it's just sort of like a homage or a sort of thing, like, you know, like, you guys wanted it, here it is kind of thing. Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, all that sort of good stuff. And I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.